You pull into your driveway after a long day, and there it is again, that faint squeak from the wheel well, the dull haze on your headlights, the rubber around your doors looking dry and tired. You bend down, run a finger across the tire sidewall, and it comes back chalky, cracked, aging faster than the rest of the car. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you already know the next repair bill is coming. You already know the shop is going to charge you $200 to fix something a $5 jar from your bathroom shelf could have handled. That is the frustration, isn't it? You take care of your car, you change the oil, you rotate the tires, you do everything right. Still, the small stuff keeps draining your wallet, the cracked weather stripping, the seized bolts, the dull paint, the battery terminals eaten alive by corrosion. It never ends, and every fix feels like a tax on owning a vehicle that should already be paid off. Here is the truth most people never hear. Most people walk into a parts store and spend $40 on specialty rubber conditioner, $60 on terminal protectant spray, $25 on a tube of dielectric grease, and another $15 on tire shine. But actually, the Amish, the old-timers, the veteran mechanics who learned before everything came in a fancy aerosol can have been using one humble petroleum jelly product for over 100 years to do every single one of those jobs better, cheaper, and longer lasting. The marketing industry buried this knowledge on purpose because you cannot sell a $30 bottle of something when a $2 jar does the same job. And the frustrating part is, nothing changes as long as you keep believing the expensive label is the better answer. You keep buying, you keep applying, and the rubber keeps cracking, the terminals keep corroding, the bolts keep seizing. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly how the Amish and the old school mechanics use simple petroleum jelly. Yes, the plain Vaseline kind to protect, preserve, and extend the life of nearly every rubber, metal, and electrical part on your car. We are going to split this into two distinct problems most drivers face, because the chemistry behind rubber protection, the chemistry behind metal protection are not the same thing, and I want you to understand both. And at the end, I will give you one final preventive habit that locks all of it in for the entire year, so you stop bleeding money on parts that should never have failed in the first place. Part 1. Dry, cracked rubber and the slow death of your tires, seals, and weather stripping. This matters first because rubber failure is the silent killer of older cars. It is what causes wind, noise, water leaks, tire blowouts, and door seals that whistle on the highway, and almost nobody addresses it until the damage is already done. Here is what you instinctively do. You see your tire sidewalls going gray and chalky, you grab a bottle of tire shine off the shelf, you spray it on, and for about 3 days the rubber looks black and wet and beautiful. It feels satisfying. It looks like you fixed it. But here is what is actually happening under the surface. Most commercial tire shines are silicone or solvent based, and those solvents pull the natural oils right out of the rubber. Tire rubber is engineered with somewhere between 7% and 12% plasticizing oils baked into the compound to keep it flexible. When you spray a solvent-heavy shine on it week after week, you are leaching those oils out. Within about 18 to 24 months, you start seeing the dry rot cracks crawling across the sidewall. The same thing happens to your door seals, your trunk gasket, your sunroof rubber. The shop sells you a shiny finish today and a $400 set of tires 2 years sooner than you needed. The reframe is simple. Most people think they are protecting their rubber, but actually they are dissolving it. Now here is the correct method, the way the Amish and the old timers do it. You take plain petroleum jelly, the cheapest white jar you can find, and you scoop out a small amount on a clean rag. For your tire sidewalls, you rub a thin, even layer across the rubber, working it in like you are polishing leather. Petroleum jelly is an occlusive. It does not evaporate. It does not strip oils. It sits on top of the rubber, seals in the plasticizers that are already there, while blocking out the ultraviolet light and ozone that cause cracking in the first place. For your door seals, weather stripping, trunk gaskets, and sunroof rubber, you apply it the same way, a thin film with your finger or a rag, and you wipe off the excess. In winter, this is what stops your doors from freezing shut, because the jelly creates a barrier that ice cannot bond to. For your wiper blades, a light wipe of petroleum jelly along the rubber edge keeps them flexible and quiet for months longer than they would otherwise last. The universal mini prevention tip for part 1 is this. Every time you wash your car, Take 90 seconds to wipe a thin coat of petroleum jelly on your door seals and tire sidewalls. 90 seconds. That is the difference between rubber that lasts 6 years and rubber that lasts 12. Part 2. Now we move to a completely different problem with completely different chemistry: the corrosion, seizure, and electrical failure of the metal parts under your hood and around your chassis. This is technically distinct from rubber decay because you are no longer fighting ultraviolet light and oil loss. You are fighting oxidation, galvanic corrosion, and moisture intrusion, and the failure mode is far more catastrophic. The universal mistake most people make is ignoring the small stuff until it becomes the big stuff. You see a little white fuzz on your battery terminal, you shrug, you keep driving. You feel a lug nut that takes a little more force to break loose, you shrug, you keep driving. 6 months later, that white fuzz is eaten through the terminal clamp and your car will not start on a 30-degree morning. That lug nut is now welded to the stud by rust, and the tire shop charges you $80 to extract it. Or worse, snaps the stud and charges you $300 to replace the hub. In the worst cases I have seen, neglected battery corrosion travels up the positive cable, ruins the entire wiring harness, and turns a $2 problem into a $2,000 repair. Salt, humidity, and the 180-degree heat cycles under your hood accelerate every bit of this. Here is how the old mechanics handle it, and I want to be very clear. This is the same petroleum jelly from part 1, doing a completely different job through completely different chemistry. Method 1 is your battery terminals. You disconnect the negative cable first, then the positive. You clean any existing corrosion off with a wire brush and a paste of baking soda and water, then dry it completely. Now you take a generous fingerful of petroleum jelly and you coat both terminal posts and the inside of both clamps before you reconnect them. The jelly is non-conductive on the surface, but it does not interfere with the metal-to-metal contact under clamp pressure. More importantly, it completely seals out the oxygen, moisture, and acidic battery vapors that cause corrosion to begin with. A properly jellied terminal stays clean for 2 to 3 years instead of 2 to 3 months. The dealership sells you a $5 can of red terminal spray that does the same job worse. The spray cracks and flakes under heat cycling while the jelly stays flexible. Method 2 is every threaded fastener that lives outside or underneath your vehicle: lug nuts, exhaust bolts, suspension bolts, brake caliper, slide pins, license plate screws. You put a light coat of petroleum jelly on the threads before you reinstall them. This is not a torque-altering lubricant like anti-seize on critical engine fasteners. For the everyday bolts that get exposed to road salt and rain, it stops the oxidation that welds steel to steel. The next time you go to remove that bolt, it breaks loose with finger pressure instead of a breaker bar. If you live in the salt belt anywhere from Pennsylvania up through Michigan, across the north of England where they grit the roads all winter, this single habit will save you hundreds of dollars in broken studs, rounded off bolts. Method 3 is your electrical connectors and grounding points: headlight bulb sockets, trailer wiring plugs, spark plug boots, any exposed ground strap. A thin smear of petroleum jelly inside the connector on the rubber boot and around the ground bolt seals out moisture, prevents the green crusty corrosion that causes intermittent electrical gremlins, the flickering headlight, the trailer brake that randomly cuts out, the misfire code that comes and goes. The jelly does not conduct electricity, but it does not need to because the pin contact is mechanical. What it does is keep the contact surfaces clean by blocking the air and water that cause them to oxidize in the first place. Old mechanics have used this trick on marine engines and farm equipment for 60 years because salt water, manure are far harsher environments than a daily driver, and if it works there, it works in your driveway. Part 3, prevention. Here is the one universal habit that locks all of this in for the entire year. It takes about 15 minutes twice a year, once in the spring after the salt is gone, and once in the fall before the first freeze. You take 1 jar of plain petroleum jelly, the standard 1 3-ounce size that costs you under $4, and you walk around your vehicle with a clean rag and a small brush. You hit the door seals, the trunk gasket, the tire sidewalls, the battery terminals, the lug nut threads, the hood latch, the hinges, the license plate bolts, and any exposed ground points. The reason this works mechanically is that petroleum jelly is hydrophobic. It physically repels water at the molecular level and it does not evaporate. Break down at temperatures between -30 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit which covers every condition your car will ever see outside of an engine fire. The exact material is plain white petroleum jelly, no fragrance, no additives. The cheapest brand on the shelf works identically to the name brand because it is the same refined petrolatum. You apply it with your finger or a rag in a thin, even layer, wipe off any excess, and walk away. That 15 minutes twice a year will save you somewhere between $200 and $600 annually in replaced weather stripping, snapped studs, dead batteries, and electrical diagnostics, and it will add years to the life of components most drivers assume are disposable. Now, once you start doing this, you are going to run into a new problem, and I want you to be ready for it. When your rubber stays soft and your bolts stay free and your electrical connections stay clean, your car starts revealing the next layer of wear, the small fluid leaks you never noticed. Corrosion was hiding them, the worn bushings you could not feel because seized bolts were holding everything rigid, the failing sensors that were being masked by corroded grounds. Specifically, the one that catches most people off guard is a slow power steering or transmission fluid weep that suddenly becomes visible on a clean, rust-free subframe, and a lot of drivers panic and think they caused it when really they just uncovered what was already there. If you are starting to see a fresh fluid spot under your car, you are noticing a new clunk or shimmy now that everything underneath moves freely again. Drop a comment below and tell me which fluid you are seeing and where it is showing up front, middle, or rear of the vehicle, and I will read every one of them. In the next video, I am going to walk you through exactly how to identify, trace, and stop the 3 most common slow leaks on high mileage vehicles using tools, materials you already have at home, including the old mechanic trick for sealing a weeping gasket without pulling the cover. Hit the subscribe button so you do not miss it, because once you start protecting your car the right way, you need to know how to handle what the protection reveals. I will see you in the next one.